Okay, so last class we were doing projective techniques, and I think we had a bit of fun. It is a serious method. We were asking all sorts of questions about, let's just say, Target or whatever brand was chosen for you. So we'd be looking at maybe, a third party. So if my friend shopped at Target, then they would be Dumpf. Um, if I had to shop at Target for a formal event, task situation. Um, if Target was a car, then what would Target be? So we're trying to get kind of understand people's deeper beliefs and feelings about something by kind of asking around the kind of the question. So we could, for example, um, have very simple word. We didn't really do much of this, but kind of very simple word association. So we could say, for example, shopping at Target, what comes into your mind? It might be fun. If it was Sears, then it might be terrible. We did do a lot of sentence completion tests where basically we had these incomplete sentences. So, if my friend shopped at Target, then they would be, and then you have to finish the sentence. Now, let me just give two more examples. The Zoltman metaphor elicitation technique. Um, I'm gonna leave it to Mr. Zoltman to kind of explain this to you since he was the inventor of the technique.
How many times have you asked a consumer what they think about your brand, your new product, your packaging? They say they like it. They say they want it. They say they'd buy it. And when the product is launched, it fails. In 1990, Jerry Zaltman travelled to Nepal. He handed cameras to the locals and asked them to document their lives through images to share them with strangers. When he looked at the pictures, he noticed that in all of them, the feet were left out. When asked, they realised and expressed that bare feet and old shoes are a symbol of poverty, something they subconsciously wanted to hide. Images hide a meaning that words cannot convey. The mind reveals its hidden emotional intentions through a complex, colourful language of images framed by deep metaphors. We don't want to peep through just one window. We want to get inside, to understand the hidden meanings that make consumers tick. Only by going deeply can we obtain insights that determine real consumer behaviour and thinking patterns. ZMET was developed by Jerry Zaltman to tap into the powerful symbolic language of the mind. Consumers are given a homework that causes them to engage in a conscious and unconscious manner with the issue. They are asked to express their thoughts and feelings through images, which they cut out and bring to the interview. Participants are then interviewed by a ZMET certified and highly trained specialist. During the in-depth ZMET interview, we listen for visual and sensory metaphors and ladder for different levels of meaning. The participant then creates a digital collage with the help of a specialist. The transcript is read and analysed at least 4 times, looking for surface and deep metaphors and archetypes that give an invaluable insight into the consumer's subconscious minds and true behaviours. ZMET offers you a look into what really matters to your consumer. We provide our clients with deep, accurate and actionable insights that bridge the gap between what consumers say and what they really mean. Give us a call and find out for yourself why companies trust us time and again whenever deep understanding of their market is a must.
Okay, so that's a very interesting method. I almost thought about adding it to the practical, but I think it would have been chaotic asking everybody to do collages at home and then kind of bring them in. You can see that it's a very high involvement method. It's not something you can do with a kind of a quick 5-minute interview with a consumer. It has to be, you would probably have to pay subjects to come in and to kind of, work on this almost like, hiring somebody for a few hours. But on the plus side, if you're properly trained, you can probably get a deep kind of more deep understanding about what you're looking for. Again, for the exam, I'm not expecting you to know the ins and outs of this whole elicitation process, but just realize this method's out there. And it's a little bit like the projective techniques, but we're going to be utilizing visuals and we're going to be using kind of collages of visual ideas. So here's this other one which was I thought was kind of interesting. So it's looking at kind of projective techniques for consumer brand relationships. And the idea here is we're trying to understand how people are tied people are to the brand. So, a lot of people of Generation Z are very, very tied to Apple. They kind of associate themselves with the brand. They feel close to the brand. You saw just by the sheer number of people getting Apple phones, most of that was probably not because of the features of the Apple iPhone versus the Samsung. A lot of it is kind of wanting to own an Apple. So again, another thing we can ask is we can kind of ask things like, if a brand was a person, then what would it be? Is it your close family? Is it your social circle? Is it a distant friend? And have these kind of different levels of association. Is it an auntie? And if a brand is considered to be kind of close friends and family, then obviously you're much more associated to the brand than if, you're like the distant third cousin or something else. So that was maybe I just thought this was kind of quite a cool way, just kind of eliciting, how tied you are to a certain brand. And again, it's kind of another kind of analogy type of projective technique. Okay, so moving on from projective techniques, we'll go to in-depth interviews. Now, this is really like a qualitative interview. We're not asking, lots of scale questions. How much did you how much do you approve of our brand, from strongly disapprove to strongly approve, or how likely are you to shop again, very unlikely to very likely, where you get quantitative answers. This is a little bit like the focus group, but it's just between two people, an interviewer and an interviewee. So just kind of a few examples. Imagine that we're kind of shopping at Walmart and we're looking for views for being charged for plastic bags. We're trying to build a rapport with the interviewee. So we'd maybe start off quite broad. What do you think is important at supermarkets? What do you think is important at supermarket checkout experience? Some general views on, how you feel Walmart, how you feel about the Walmart brand. Then again, a little bit almost towards projective techniques. How do other people perceive Walmart? Do they think of it as big corporate? Do they think of it as soulless? I might shop here because it's cheap, but it's not a company I really associate with. And then you'd maybe get to some specifics about, what you're looking for, being charged for plastic bags. Um, and then maybe something about some of the environmental impact of plastic bags, and just a few questions surrounding that. Obviously, it would be, in practice, it would be a little bit more detailed. Um, a little bit of common sense here, a good interviewer, you're going to be asking again, it's a balance between, you don't want to be too rigid. You want the interviewee to be able to elaborate and maybe go off a little bit on some other ideas, but you don't want to break off on too many tangents away from what you're looking at. So the word here is kind of semi-structured. We obviously need to have good interpersonal communications. That's kind of key if you're an interviewer. And then generally, just kind of going for this example, we need to understand what we're trying to show. We'd maybe have these initial kind of general questions. We'd move forward trying to find some kind of very specific research questions. Best environment, I guess. Most of these things are now online, but I mean, we could grab somebody outside of a shopping center. But generally, I mean, it's somebody where the interviewee should feel comfortable. It shouldn't be like, I've got to rush off in 5 minutes. I'm surrounded by people on a bench or something like that. Okay, and here's the process. Obviously, we select and screen respondents. As this is qualitative, it doesn't have to be a representative sample of the population. Um, Make sure that they understand what's happening, make sure they're at ease, conduct the interview, and then we start to analyze. We'll talk more about analyzing qualitative data when we do in focus groups in the next video, but we want to kind of analyze maybe some of the main themes of the analysis and then kind of write a little summary report. So here's another little example by persona interviews. So let me just go back here. So a buyer persona is just kind of understand a little bit more about your customers. So you may be asking them about how they feel about your product. So let me just think what I've got with me. I've got a hydro flask with me, which is like the current trend in water bottles. So if I'm hydro flask, I want to know what you think about my product, but I also want to know a little bit what drives you. I want, since this is an activity thing, I'd ask what sort of activities you do, how you incorporate leisure into your life. And this is actually, you can just click on it from the slides, but this gives kind of quite a few, um, you know, basic questions for formulating your interviews.